LeBron James just voiced what many won't. The media uses his name for clicks, hoping he'll fail. After 23 years, they're still rooting against him. Not because he's washed, but because his name alone generates controversy. We're breaking down the entire media narrative. This analysis will change how you see the whole GOAT debate. So what are the thoughts on his comments? Well, it's candid. He and MJ are fundamentally different types of players. Remember, LeBron's initial comparison wasn't to Jordan, it was to Magic Johnson. But he was just so dominant, he ended up leading in points, assists, and pretty much everything else. He's a killer on the court just in his own unique way. He's a dog, no question. He came straight out of high school and has lived up to that insane hype every single day. So, from his perspective, if he feels he's the GOAT, he has absolutely earned the right to say it. I don't know if any player in history has faced the same level of scrutiny he has both on and off the court. And just look at what he's accomplished. To me, the whole GOAT debate really just comes down to who you grew up loving. Fans from the 90s, they ride with Mike. I grew up watching LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. So for my generation, those are the guys I looked up to as my personal GOATs. So when you hear these comments, what's the reaction to him addressing the Michael Jordan comparison head on? I think he was as candid and as honest as he could possibly be from his point of view, right? He can only speak on his own journey and how things have unfolded for him. Look, they're two different players and they are both all-time greats. Michael Jordan has even said it himself. It's unfair to compare him to the legends who came before him because he never had to play against those guys. They were all legends in their own time. LeBron is in that conversation, and to even be mentioned among the greatest players to ever lace up a pair of basketball shoes is a massive honor. Whether you have him at 1 or 2 is just personal preference. The fact is, he's been incredible his entire career. He came into the league with immense pressure and completely lived up to the hype. And the man is still dominating. He's given critics plenty of room to talk, but he just keeps pushing forward. He has his team up 3-1 in the playoffs, something few people predicted. So yeah, that's his honest perspective on his 23-year career. It's raw and it's real. And frankly, he gets a lot of hate in the GOAT debate. It's true. LeBron fans often get called glazers. People just say if you support him, you're a glazer. You even changed your tune earlier this season. Finally admitting the reality, most people are scared to accept that LeBron has now surpassed MJ. I was in a tough spot there. You were trapped in the matrix. You couldn't say it. You don't want to admit LeBron is the GOAT. They start stirring that little teacup and pull you back in. It really feels like every single time you even mention LeBron's name, it turns into a problem. It's wild. If you say anything positive about LeBron being the GOAT, the comment section explodes. People get genuinely angry. It's just outrageous. Michael Jordan never had to deal with this kind of social media firestorm. The media back then was incredibly pro-Jordan. The man could do no wrong. But now we live in an age where everybody has a platform. It's not just a couple channels on TV like ESPN. Everyone gets to voice their take, and I believe the entire tune is going to change once this younger generation fully takes its spot. You're going to hear a lot more pro-LeBron takes. The new generation loves LeBron, and they're going to hate on whoever is next in line the same exact way that LeBron got all that hate. I think it's exactly what was said earlier. It's all about who you grew up watching. Who did you see play the game in their prime? I'm older than most of you here, so I grew up watching Mike and the Bad Boy Pistons. That was my era. My favorite team was the Pistons. In my eyes, Isaiah Thomas could do no wrong. That whole team couldn't. So that's my era. Every generation has their great players and their iconic teams that people are going to idolize. And I'm glad that point was made. That's been my whole argument when I try to have a reasonable conversation about the greatest basketball player of all time. I was on vacation with my family down in Florida, right? We're at a crab spot eating, and this guy comes up to me before his kids went to the bathroom to wash their hands. He wanted to have the debate right there. He said, I watch the show all the time, big fan. He then asked, so who you got as the greatest basketball player? I said Michael Jordan. He replied, I'm a LeBron guy. And then he wanted to know what makes LeBron better than Mike. I stopped him and said, wait, can't LeBron just be great in his own right without you having to say anything negative about Michael Jordan? Is LeBron great? He said, yeah. I said, is the same thing true for Michael? He agreed. That's it. You don't have to tear one down to praise the other. But the media like ESPN thrives on it. I've seen Stephen A say how he feels about MJ in his heart. He says, I know him, but that's just pure bias. And it puts MJ on a pedestal. Everyone's biased, but it's the people in charge, the older generation, that are always putting LeBron down. That's the issue. Every time they want to critique him or talk negatively about him, they jump at the chance. They hope for a Houston comeback just so they can pounce. Those who aren't being honest want to have something negative to say. They throw things at him that Jordan never even had to deal with. They just want something to cling to. Why? Because that's what gets people to click. He's right. The controversy is the point. He's still in the conversation, which keeps people clicking. Look, LeBron is still a flashpoint topic, and honestly, that's just scratching the surface. There are people literally praying for him to fail because deep down, their egos simply can't handle the possibility that he might actually be the greatest player of all time. This whole thing it's really unfortunate. It's as if they're praying to any god that will listen, whoever they can find. They're suddenly paying tithes, showing up to church on a Wednesday. They are doing absolutely everything. Jesus, Buddha, you name it. They're trying it all, right? They're going to psychics, desperately looking for some kind of edge. They're looking for a pair of LeBron socks to bury in the yard, all kinds of voodoo. It's all happening right now, just hoping this man fails. All so they can rush online and post. See? Told you he wasn't the best. That is the entire end game for them right now. They refuse to look at the totality of his career. But like you said, the best you can hope for is to just be in the conversation. Just being in the conversation is the goal. When they mention the greatest players ever, you just want your name to be in the mix. With over 5,000 players in NBA history, just being in that discussion is massive. But for some, the case is more blatant. But when the case is so blatant, it feels different. The criticism seems to focus mostly on LeBron. I never heard this from Michael Jordan. To this day, you just don't hear people questioning MJ's legacy. Oh, well, actually, LeBron's fans absolutely do. Yeah, they certainly do. Their main argument is always that he didn't play against real competition. And if that's the case, it suggests everyone Michael Jordan played against was inferior. They'll say he couldn't score like LeBron. The counter argument, Mike was just a better, more natural scorer. He had the ultimate killer instinct. Look, people are always going to pick things apart, but when someone's main criticism is that you ain't played against nobody, that just implies the entire 1990s era of basketball was trash. They'll find any angle to discredit him, right? So, what does that mean? He played in an easy era? If that's the case, that's a knock on his legacy too. The greatest can't have played against nobody. Now, that's not his fault, but as a testament to Jordan's greatness, the league was going through a major expansion at that time. And let's be honest, the man was dominating everybody. Let's not pretend he wasn't. The counter is always, the league was watered down though. Okay, fair enough. Let's examine that point. But league expansion is part of the business of basketball. And it's not as if Jordan was just barely getting by. It wasn't a situation where everyone was here and he was just a little bit better. No, the argument is that he was way up here, head and shoulders better than everyone else in the league, right? And for many, that settles it. The LeBron noise isn't going away. Not anytime soon. And if you're looking for something for flaky scalps, I'm just saying, that's the perception. That's what many people are saying. No, the point is that the league was watered down because they were adding new teams. Okay, but let's say the league was watered down. Fine. He was still absolutely dominating the competition. It wasn't like he was averaging 25 and just blending in. No, but the real argument comes down to the drop-off when he left the Bulls. The team didn't completely fall apart, and that's a key point. You can't be head and shoulders above if the team doesn't collapse. When he left the first time, and we need to be clear, it was the first retirement the Bulls were still a top-tier team. Their record was still fantastic after he left. Now, they didn't win it all, but the drop-off in performance wasn't that steep. For a player to be truly head and shoulders above, you need to see the LeBron effect. When he leaves Cleveland, it's over. The franchise pretty much ceases to exist until he comes back. Now, that's the same thing that happened, or rather, it's not what happened with the Bulls. Can you leave a top team, see them reach the conference finals, and then come back to win more? And they lost to the New York Knicks, right? But that's still just one single step away from the NBA Finals. So does that championship experience just not matter? When LeBron left Cleveland, where did the Cavaliers end up? At the bottom. That's what being head and shoulders above everyone else looks like. It's not leaving a team that nearly makes the finals. The counter is that the Bulls were just a good team. When LeBron leaves, his old team is immediately in the draft lottery. The Bulls had a great roster, a great system, and arguably the greatest coach ever. That's how people view it. Some will say LeBron never had a great coach, but that's a whole nother debate. This isn't about the coach, or is it? It does have an impact. Phil Jackson was a legendary coach who won championships with superstar players. With Michael Jordan, they were a great team, but without Michael Jordan, they were still a very good team. They got to the Eastern Conference semis and lost to the Knicks in 7. So we're talking about a second round exit. After winning 3 straight titles, You expect a team to at least get to the second round, even if they lose their best player. Especially with that roster. Let's be real. Scottie Pippen wasn't trash. The rest of that team was not a joke. The GOAT debate often starts with players, but this one kicks off with coaching. Phil Jackson's ability to make his teams believe they could always win is legendary. The point is, even with a completely different roster, he returned to win 3 straight championships. An absolutely incredible coaching feat. And yes, that three-peat was historic. A killer display of pure, undisputed on-court dominance. He was the missing piece for an already good team. But the conversation shifts, suggesting it's now blatantly obvious that it should be blatant that LeBron is the greatest ever. But the immediate pushback is obvious to who? Exactly. For many, seeing is believing. They watched Michael Jordan with their own eyes. They even saw him battle against Kobe. They also saw LeBron play. The agreement is that they are all phenomenal, and it's not about tearing any legend down. You can have your preference, right? For some, Kobe is better. But then comes the conflict. Realistically, LeBron really is the GOAT. And that's the part that is so hard to deny. So when the new rankings are eventually released, the question becomes, when those new lists come out, who is number one? The argument is made that LeBron James should be at the very top. So the moment LeBron retires, he should be cemented as number one over everyone else. End of story. But the people who watch Michael Jordan play still get a vote, right? And we all know who they're going to choose. We all know who they're going to vote for. It's just the reality of the situation. You're not going to change people's minds. But the argument pivots from changing opinions to simply acknowledging what is factually right in the debate. Everyone's personal opinion is their own, but the focus here is shifting to what's objectively correct. My own opinion might be that I'd put Kobe ahead of all of them. But when you talk about what's right, you have to acknowledge LeBron's case. Then you have to put LeBron at the top. But a fascinating wrinkle emerges. Paul George is many NBA players' favorite player. That's a fact. But does being a favorite make him number one? It's their preference, but it doesn't make him the greatest. That is the entire point being made. At the end of the day, it's just their individual preference. But remember, LeBron James was in the league with Paul George that entire time, wasn't he? It's a simple yes or no. Exactly. And when you ask this generation of players, their preference was Paul George, not the older legends. They didn't name Jordan or Kobe. So if someone actually argued on putting Paul George over LeBron James, you wouldn't argue that point. It's their preference. So would you even challenge it, whether it matters or not? No, you're right. You'd need backup from Stephen A. Somebody. But it's still their preference. I would love to see them make that choice. But the argument is that this isn't just about personal choice anymore. It's supposed to be about what's right. The response is simple. No, that's just what's right according to you. What's right for you isn't necessarily right for me. The entire debate now seems to be based on feeling. The whole discussion has really become about feelings. But the counter argument is a firm no, it is not. Yes, it is. If it's about preference over facts, numbers, and what this man is actually accomplishing, then your argument weakens. It loses its power. So, with that said, where does a legend like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar fit into this conversation? For some, he's their personal GOAT. And with that said, it's a great thing his name was brought into this. So where does Kareem fit into this debate? He absolutely has to be considered a top 5 player of all time. Some would say he should be number 1. He has 6 MVPs and yes, 6 total championships to his name. Yes, 6 championships, that's correct. My mistake, you can't shortchange the legend on his incredible list of rings. Plus, he very famously almost won a fight against the legendary Bruce Lee. He did, well, almost. Let's look at the records. 38,000 points, 6 titles, 6 MVPs. We have to be realistic in this conversation. If we are having this talk seriously, many people already have Kareem ranked as their number 1. A lot of people really do. So that's the point. How can you decide when LeBron is who he is, and Kareem was who he was, and Michael was who he was? And on points, LeBron now has over 40,000. Some of these records are like Michael Jackson's. They are simply never going to be broken by another athlete. So why should LeBron James be number 1? Is it simply because of everything he is doing and all the records? He's arguably the greatest of all time in 2 positions, point guard and small forward. You can even throw in power forward. Who else is doing that? Who else ranks in the top 5 in another one of these major positional categories? But no one else has ever played for 23 years. There's no one to compare him to on longevity. No one else. So does his longevity alone make him the GOAT? The immediate pushback is, oh no, it absolutely doesn't mean that. Model. How many assists does LeBron have? And does Kareem even come close? No, he doesn't. Not even in the same ballpark. Kareem wasn't a primary passer. He was an all-around dominant force. a center who scored 38,000 points. Think about that. 38,000 career points with one unstoppable move. That's the definition of legendary. So that brings us back to LeBron. Where is he on the all-time assist list? It fuels the debate. Did he take the harder road to his titles? Let's repeat that question because it's key. Did LeBron take the harder road to win his championships? The focus is on LeBron. Did he choose the path of most resistance? For many, the answer is a clear no. LeBron James, the harder road? How is going to Miami to join Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh the harder road? The defense is that it's still hard. You still have to win. But seriously, the expectation was a dynasty. You have to get it done, no doubt. But that move is precisely when the intense criticism of his career really began. He only won 2 titles in Miami. He lost twice in the finals. That's what fueled the critics from that point on. That's right. The moment he announced he was going to Miami, the narrative around him changed forever. Exactly. All the negativity and the debate truly ignited with the decision to go to South Beach. Right. And the expectation was clear. You went down there to dominate the league and win multiple championships. But he didn't. They lost twice. So that became another hard road. He had to come back from that failure. He returns to Cleveland. I think his path was tough from the start. In his first run in Cleveland, he got swept by Tim Duncan and the Spurs. That's right. Then he couldn't get past the big 3 in Boston, so he decided to form his own super team. He did what Boston did, but then he gets crucified for it. The criticism started right then with massive expectations. You bring Wade and Bosh to Miami, putting a super team together. Yet you lose in the very first year. It was a super team, just like the Chicago Bulls had a super team. So you don't get a pass for losing. Some argue his road was tougher, but others say he tried to make the road easier by leaving Cleveland. Going to Miami was the easier option. Staying in Cleveland now, that would have been the hard road everyone talks about. If he had stayed in Cleveland, then he might not have ever made it back to the finals. So it wouldn't even be a debate. Then going back, he knew what it took. He went to Miami and learned how to assemble a championship roster. He observed what a championship culture requires to win. He then took that same recipe and brought it back to Cleveland. He implemented that formula, and they finally got it done, winning a title for his home state. But people still criticized him no matter what after Miami. He was expected to win more than just 2 rings there, that's for sure. That was the expectation from the public. You were supposed to win multiple championships. Because you put that super team together, many people saw anything less than a dynasty as a failure. In many people's opinions, winning only 2 was not enough. And that's the knock against his legacy, right? You hear it all the time. He went to the finals this many times, but only won this many. That's the main argument critics use. But what about 8 straight finals appearances? That alone is an incredible feat that people lean on to defend him. 8 straight trips to the NBA Finals is absolutely insane. It's a crazy accomplishment to even think of. We know how difficult it is just to make the playoffs, let alone the finals. To do that for 8 consecutive seasons, I don't care who is on your roster, that level of sustained excellence is incredibly hard to achieve in any sport. But many people will always say he tried to take the easier route by going to Miami. That's when the criticism was locked in. So after that, nothing was ever good enough. Unless he was sweeping every series, that was the only way to silence critics. And even then, look at the bubble championship. People said, oh, it was in a bubble, so he gets no credit for that. People actually criticized that championship. This man won a title during a global crisis, and they downplayed it. They said it was watered down, that the path was easy. They just refused to give the man any credit for winning that ring. But here's the thing about his greatness, the one undeniable fact. Everywhere he has gone, he has won a championship. Any franchise he puts a jersey on, he wins a title. And that to me shows how hard his journey really was. It's a challenging path because Tim Duncan had one team. Michael Jordan had one team. Kobe Bryant had one team. But to go to different organizations in different conferences and say, this is my team now and we will win, is amazing. But for his critics, that's just another knock against him. Because those other legends, as they always say, stayed in one place. They didn't jump ship when things got bad. They stuck it out. They had that solid foundation. But my point is, people still don't see the big picture. They're not going to look at the totality of it. They're just going to grab what fits their own narrative, right? Anything to make him look bad. They won't look at the context, like how Cleveland had never won before. They drafted him number 1 for a reason, you know? It's the same thing when he went to the Nets. The Nets hadn't won. You expect him to do certain things, and he delivered. He did those things, but people just say, oh, he couldn't get it done, so he jumped ship. He went there. You give people one little glimpse of something, and they'll take that small piece and run with it. They take that one snippet instead of looking at the whole picture. But is that really fair? Is that narrative fair in basketball? The entire goal is just to win, right? When you get to the end Bachelor of Arts, your job is to win championships by any means. So why is this an issue? Why does this have to be a stain on his record? Is it just because he's in the conversation with Jordan? Is that the only reason? To knock him down a peg? It's just a weak argument. But unfortunately, that's what people are always going to do. And believe me, I've heard enough of this. I've heard enough of these conversations. Sometimes I just sit back in the barbershop and listen, right? And eventually, someone is going to ask for my professional opinion. But mostly, I just sit back and let people argue. Day in and day out, I just have to laugh because people get so genuinely angry and upset over these debates. And we're talking about people who have never stepped on a professional court. It's just crazy to me. It's truly like, yo, how are we wrong, they say. We see these guys every day. They'll question you. But I've been on the court with these players. I've seen them play. I sit right here breaking it down. And it's amazing. People argue with me about a team I was literally a part of. Exactly. I've said it plenty of times. I have to remind them. You all do know I was actually there, right? You were in the building. This whole debate is going to go on forever. It's never going to stop. But I will make this point. Then we can move on. Unfortunately, we don't live forever. You know? And Michael Jordan's older fan base is fading. We are in a transition. A lot of the old school MJ fans are just not here anymore. Meanwhile, LeBron's fans are younger, so it's going to continue. LeBron's reign in the conversation will be just as long. I don't know if anyone will ever surpass that, or even get close to being the next person in that conversation. Don't know who that is or if it will happen. So, what? We start hating on Wemby now? Yeah, maybe it's Wembanyama's turn. I was going to say maybe it's him, but they've already started on him. A lunchtime hooper. That's what they called him when he first arrived. A new narrative will show up soon enough. All right, let's keep moving. This back and forth GOAT debate isn't ending anytime soon, and honestly, it shouldn't. Make sure you like and subscribe for more, and comment below with your pick. For me, it's MJ. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That's my final answer.